Well, welcome everybody. We're going to get the call kicked off here. This is my first time using the stage on Discord, so hopefully the admins here will help me keep that under control. I know that there is a ton of interest around the exchange listings that dropped this week. I'm going to go ahead and clarify now. This is a node runners call. It's for supporting node runners. This is not going to be an exchange call. So if you're here just to talk trading and exchange, I mean, you might as well drop off now. Nothing personal, but that's not what this call's for. Starting off this week, I do want to mention, if you have not seen it yet, in the Node Runners channel, there's a thread for security best practices documentation. One of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is, whether like some real optimization documents around, security and performance and all the rest of those things. Our community member Zatar is leading up an initiative to help get some of that stuff documented. So please check in on there, subscribe to the thread. You do have to physically go to the thread and click into it and join to see it in your sidebar. But it is in the Node Runners channel, and somebody can post a link out to that channel fresh to point to the thread if the conversation has moved too fast to keep up and see it currently in the live stream. Second, wow, the network growth over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we thought it was pretty impressive when we hit 17, 18, then 20, now 21. There are a lot of folks who are adding some strength and diversity to the mission of decentralization in the Pocket Network, and watching all of the new nodes getting staked has been pretty darn amazing. So kudos to all of you. We appreciate you contributing your strength to the network and, helping us to achieve the mission of a truly decentralized, token agnostic RPC endpoint relay chain, which is a long way of saying we are moving data around the blockchain world probably better than anyone else. I mean, I'd put us up against some centralized services at this point. It's truly impressive what's being accomplished here. We don't have any featured guest or speaker today, and I know that even though it seems slow sometimes, we always chew these office lunch hours up far faster than most expect. So I'm just going to go ahead and lead right into questions. Since we are on the stage, you will need to do the little wavy hand up thing to become a speaker. Sorry if I don't know all the terminology correctly there, but whatever your node running questions are, go ahead and raise your hand up and we'll get the ball rolling. Who's up first? Thatty cool. Did I do that right? I hit the button. Yes, maybe. From my side, it says invite sent, so that should mean that you're allowed to speak now. Maybe you have to do something on your side too. Well, while we figure that out,
you need to
there we go.
Yep. Yeah, after an invite is you put in a request, then we accept, and then you have to do one more accept. And
sounds good.
So that's for
thanks, Shane. Thanks, Shinx. Okay,
you got it.
So my question is around the apps actually. So I'm planning to run some applications which really shows a lot of data around the blockchain of Pocket Node. So it may be like rewards, or it may be your relays and things around it. So I am planning to get this information from a Pocket Node, which is basically like from a Pocket Node which is running on the server. Now my question is around what is the best way to get this data? So I have already took some notes and the options which I think are feasible. So one being that I run my own node and then query it using the RPC or API localhost, basically. So when I'm running my own node and basically I'm doing the API calls using the localhost, then it gives me the data for particular addresses and things like that. Also, I can do a Pocket query, basically the Pocket query account transactions and other details, which also gives me the same JSON data. And then the third way which I figured out is the minting endpoints, which are basically which I can directly call the APIs of the node which is already running in the network. So I saw that minting pocket endpoints from the dev portal, and I was able to make API calls to that as well. These are the three options which I had. I wanted to know what exactly the best, or is there any other option as well which I'm missing out on?
Ooh, Shane, Rich, y'all got some guidance on that?
Yeah, I think sending your calls through the portal, the endpoint portal that you minted, that's probably the best way to get your calls to the Pocket network for sure. There's a lot of extra features and things of that nature, quality of service features that are kind of baked into the portal that provide a really great service. So for your application, I would definitely suggest using an endpoint from the portal.
So what I understand is that will basically be a network call instead of the local host call, which I would be really making, right? Instead, if I'm running my own node and making those calls, that will be local host. But on the other hand, if I'm basically making the calls to the endpoint, that will be the network call. That's the only difference which I see, right? Is there any other downside which I'm missing on if I'm calling the endpoints?
No, Pocket basically emulates what you would be calling directly to your local host, to your local host, right? So instead of the URL, being localhost, and then your port, it would be just the Pocket endpoint that they give you,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's it. So yeah, it all the same calls will work if they're HTTP calls. So they'll work regardless of if you're sending it to your local host or if you're sending it to Pocket. It will be the same, literally the same thing, because all that Pocket network is doing is routing that call to a node on that network. That's supporting whatever chain you're needing to interface with. So in this case, Ethereum. It'll route it directly to an Ethereum node on the Pocket network, and then send you the response. So it is the same as it in theory is basically the same as if you're querying the node directly on your network, but it's a larger network and it's Pocket.
Got it. Thanks a lot for that. I have a follow-up question on that. Is there any documentation which I can find the type of responses? So I saw the API Swagger API document, but is there any other document which I can find for all the responses and the request payload and the response payload, how it will look like, so that it will help a lot for me while I'm building the application to make integrations easier.
Yeah, we don't, because any Ethereum calls work, right? So we don't list all the Ethereum calls or all the calls for every chain because the clients themselves, like anything that you could do with your own personal node or anything that you could do with another service as well.
Yeah, but I'm specifically looking for the Pocket, actually. So the Pocket blockchain. For that, there must be a documentation, right?
You're
Not for
querying
other
the Pocket
blockchains.
blockchain. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can add something here. First off, my apologies. When I came on stage, my sound went off. I think Shane has a great history and knows a lot about this. The only thing I would add is that if you have specific questions on this use case, from what I heard, it sounds pretty similar to like what Pocket Scan does. So the Pocket Scan team has, documentation, they have a repo. They may be able to assist you because it seems like they do something similar, but that's just one possible resource.
It sounds like you've just overlooked there's an RPC documentation directory in the Pocket Core repo itself that will build Swagger docs for you for all the RPC calls.
Understood. Wow. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I've seen that. I'll take a look again. Thanks a lot.
that is the best documentation for the RPC calls if you've seen it already. Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. So, and I really appreciate the fact that that question got asked because I haven't seen much at all from the Dapp side. I've got a few folks around who are writing their own stuff, but we tend to have a very node runner centric view here, so it's really kind of nice to hear some of the questions and such that get asked from the other side of the equation, and I'm very interested in what people are out there writing about Pocket or writing to use on the Pocket network. So if you're in the process of building a Dapp that is going to query the network specifically, or especially if it's a Dapp that is querying Pocket data, I am super interested in that. Please feel free to DM me or chat in channel or whatever else. I'm like, I don't know much about that side of the equation, and I'd love to learn more. Akash, I just sent you an invite up. I saw that you raised your hand, so you are invited to the stage, sir. You will have to accept the invite, though. Akash? Well, while he's figuring out the how to accept the invite and speak there, if you have a question, the request to speak queue is linear, so please just go ahead and throw your hand up if you'd like to speak, and we'll process those in. You don't have to wait for the next invite. Just we'll get them rolling on through. I'll go ahead and bring Q up to the stage now. Then, oh, Akash is there. So Akash, unmute and it's you, and then Q's coming in right behind you. Maybe. I see we're all figuring out stage together.
Finally figured it out. So first things first, I would recommend the Iron Man theme music for Jinx. You were asking about what would be a good entry, and a theme music for here. So that's one thing. Coming to the technical question, I started a node some 2 days back, some 48 hours back approximately, and I followed the Benman script and the YouTube video of 0 to node, and it has synced up to very specifically up to 27198 blocks, and what seems to me like it is stuck there because since afternoon it has not gone up. So just wanted to know two things. One, does it normally take this long to sync a Pocket node? And secondly, any ideas if how I could QC why it is? It seems to me as it's stuck. So why would that the case be? Thank you.
Beautiful. And go ahead and mute. You've got a lot of background noise there. So first of all, it does take a little bit of time to sync up a node fully, and there are some snapshots that can help accelerate that process. We can make sure that those are shared out in the Node Runners channel after this call. I know that storage, for instance, is providing a snapshot for us, which should allow for a fairly quick download, and uploading that directly to your data directory, makes that a lot faster along the way. That being said, it's interesting that you mentioned that block getting stuck, because I noticed yesterday a few different applications seem to be stuck at a certain point, including even some of the wallet views as far as transactions not showing or things along that line. Is there some amount of, or is there some are there any issues with reporting APIs or anything like that currently? I saw that Pocket Scan was a little bit out of date. Pocket Watch was a little bit out of date. I don't think they are right now, but I was seeing some lag time. Is anything happening with the network that would be causing any additional lag time? Rich, Shane, Alex, anybody?
Network traffic won't affect your sync speed. There were some troublesome blocks in the past history of the chain. I would suggest just starting with the snapshot if you don't have the patience to wait for the sync, which I totally understand. I do know that they have some improvements coming out in 8.0, I think, for sync time, but no guarantees on that. I would just start with the snapshot.
Yeah, agreed completely. I mean, the first time that I tried to sync a node from scratch, and by I mean QSpider, while I sort of watched helpfully, it was a long process. So the snapshots that are available out there now, they really do shortcut a lot of that. And any problem blocks in the past, if while you're in the course of syncing up, it's getting stuck at a block that may have been a poorly formed block or something like that in the past. Using the snapshot will jump you past those. So very much recommend that. But keep us posted on that, Akash. I want to make sure your nodes are running.
So just to follow up on that, one thing was key. Is this normal? Is something I wanted to know whether the block being stuck here. From what I would understand is key a lot between you guys here. A lot of times this must have happened. So is this? How long would it take normally for a Pocket node to sync up? And what would be your advice for me over here? Should I shut down this node, try again, or just wait for this to sync up normally? And I'm talking about days or hours, just to get some general idea.
I'll say that Sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Okay, no problem. I haven't tried syncing a Pocket node from block 0 in a long time. I would suggest using the snapshots.
Yeah, I would agree completely with that. The last one that I watched fully sync from scratch probably took about a day and a half. I mean, it was not a fast process at all, and that's been several months. So it's only gotten longer since then. The snapshots are great because of the fact that they just pull all of that data immediately in as fast as, whatever read-write time you have for pulling the snapshot down and loading it up into your server, which is significantly faster than hours on hours on hours.
Great, thank you. I look forward to those resources for using snapshots. Thank you.
Beautiful. And if somebody who happens to have those links handy can throw those up in the Node Runners channel while we're on the call, I think that'd be a good resource to have along the way. Q846HY. How do I pronounce that? Kate 46 You're up. If you want to ask a question, you'll need to accept the invite to the stage. Waiting. Okay. Well, I am going to drop you out of the request queue for now, and you can always re-request should you like to come on board. The next person up, I'm sorry, I can't tell if that's Arabic or Farsi, and I have no idea what to say, but okay, well, and you dropped out as well. So, next question. Throw your hands up. Is this when we cue the Iron Man music? Jeffrey, come on up to the stage. And also, somebody tell me what it looks like when I throw that invite to the stage out. That way I can help other people accept it faster.
It puts a little banner up at the top of your application if you're on the desktop. I don't know what it does for mobile, but desktop wise, it's just a little banner up at the top that says accept.
Perfect. Jeff, you're talking.
Hello. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, great. A few weeks ago, these RPC timeouts weren't a big issue, but I'm noticing lately that they've been getting worse and crashing in nodes. So I was wondering, I tried to increase the RPC timeout in the config, and that seemed to crash my node also. But it's happening more often on more nodes now every day. So I was wondering if there was some trick or something we can do to help resolve that.
I could speak a while on this. Unfortunately, I have to drop. I have another call starting. But this has to do with Pocket Core. So this isn't a timeout from your data nodes. This is actually a timeout from Pocket Core. It happens once an hour when the sessions tumble, the sessions being the actual application sessions. This is a known issue. The core team has multiple people working on this full time right now. So we know this is definitely a big issue with node runners, and they are working to address it. What you can do now, if you can, is to give each node more CPU. But we don't like that response. We don't think that's a good response. So they're working to address what the issue is of the inefficiency in core. So yeah, we can talk more about this next week, or I can address it more in the Node Runner channel. I don't have much more information than that, but I do hope to have an update from the core team soon. So sorry about I don't have time to answer it much further, but yeah, definitely a known issue.
Awesome. Thanks,
Okay,
Alex.
thank you.
Never a surprise when Jeff comes to the table with something on point. I know that we've spent a lot of time in experimenting and R&D on bare metal setups, which I think is for anybody who's purely running on the cloud. Alex has mentioned this in the past himself. It's worth building one yourself to really get a sense of what it's like from a hardware perspective, from an OS perspective, from a CPU and resource usage perspective. Build it, run it on testnet if nothing else, send some test transactions against it. And then, if it feels like it's in a pretty good shape and strong, then connect it up to mainnet and run it that way. And, it's worth knowing how to do it well if this is something that you're going to do for the long term. Next question up. And again, when we're at the stage, you don't have to wait until there's a silence or something along that line. You can throw a question up at any point in time, and it doesn't matter, big or small, beginner or advanced, we'll take it on. Steve is coming to the stage. I think everybody should get their own walk-on music. Do you see the invite, Steve? You should see a notification that you've been invited to speak. There we go.
Okay, I learned that. Yes, I'm a little smarter than I was 2 minutes ago, or at least I know how to click on the green button. I'm curious what you guys are doing for monitoring, just the health and uptime in a automated way, preferably.
Ooh, that is a good question. There's a lot of different options out there. I know that, Jeffrey, you're still up on stage. We haven't kicked you off yet. Do you want to talk about what you're doing from a monitoring perspective?
I'm actually trying to learn how to get the metrics going, but for now I'm just using Ban's rock and just monitoring the nodes that way. But I think somebody was talking about it earlier. It sounded like using a lot of the endpoints or APIs that are on Pocket Core. There's I forgot RPC calls or something like that that I'm trying to set up to where I can just easily monitor that kind of stuff. But I haven't done it yet. I'm still working on it.
Gotcha.
So like automated HTTP requests to the RPC endpoints and just doing like a heartbeat kind of monitoring. Is that what you're working on?
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm just learning that whole side at the moment regarding metrics. Just trying to figure out how to pull the data and display it. So I'm really a noob on that side of things. So it's taken me, just gathering information here and there and then trying to put it together, and then maybe I'm not sure exactly how to throw it up on a web page yet, but there's Grafana. You can put it in Grafana dashboard. So I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, we've got
Yeah.
a number of folks who are working on similar kinds of things, and I'll do a quick plug here for the Pocket Pilots group on Telegram. That's something that we can share the link out to in the Node Runner Discord as well, where it's a bunch of folks who are learning how to build nodes, and I think answering some of these questions from a run it and build it yourself perspective. Grafana is one of the solutions that we've seen suggested, and we've got a couple of folks who are working on scripting for that. Ben Van's Rocket script, I think, has been one of the sort of go-tos for monitoring individual performance from a rewards and transactions and ability to do transactions, and also things like relative latency perspective. But building out a complex dashboard that is tracking all of the above plus general performance stats, I think we're still very much in the roll your own stage right now.
Yeah, I got it. And I checked that out. That's a super good starting point. And things like, is anybody doing anything like proactively, like local monitoring to maybe jail the node before there's issues or something like that automatically, or anything like that? Or, if there are problems with the node, sort of where you're not having to watch it and manually deal with it?
That's a really interesting question. What's funny is I know that some of the larger node runners have created auto unjailing scripts, and that's something that they're using. I've never heard of someone proactively jailing a script based on seeing performance issues or something along that line. Um, I'm kind of mind blown at the forward thinking of that. It sounds like you belong in the Pocket Pilots group as well. I would join that Telegram group and get involved there. There are a lot of folks who are asking similar questions and working on better solutions right now for individual or bare metal node runner builders. So we'll definitely share that link out, and shoot me a friend request here on Discord, Jinxo504. I'll make sure that you're connected to those groups as well.
Yeah, will do. I appreciate that.
Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to boot you back to the audience here, and then who's next up with a question? A little better than halfway through the call, and we always get additional questions that float in closer to the end, so better to ask them now. Q is coming back to the stage. I'm sending you that invite to speak, so make sure you click the button to join. Q846HY. There you are. And now unmute. And you're live. Maybe. There's certainly some kinks to figure out with the stage administration. 846, are you with us? Going once. Going twice. Well, I'm going to move.
Sold.
I'm going to move you back to the audience for now, then, while you figure out whatever's happening there with your communications. Who's got the next question up? Anything at all about node running? So everybody's good. Nodes are running great. No issues, no questions. All right. Well, I will use this as a moment to plug the proposal, and shoot, I've forgotten the name of it now, but in regards to the 08 versions that are coming out. If y'all haven't read that proposal in the forums, definitely go check that out. And just in general, if you are running nodes and you're in this community and you are not spending time in the forums reading the peps and pups and all of the various conversations that occur around there, you're really doing yourself a disservice. The future of the protocol and the economics around the protocol and basically everything that affects you as a node runner is published and discussed and proposed out there. So, jump in there, get in those conversations, and you don't even have to be a DAO voter to participate in the conversations. We very much do want to hear from the community your opinions on, what things should be put in place moving forward, what features are needed. And we also do things like, reward folks who are building out tooling and helping create the ecosystem. So, definitely get in those conversations if you're not already. Also, if you're not a DAO voter, please, please, please get on the path. The DAO needs more active participants. We need more people who are working to secure and strengthen the ecosystem around us. And right now, there are simply, in my opinion, not enough voters in general. So get on the path, get some nodes running, help with the community service, update some documentation, work with all those things, but get your vote. Who's next up with a question? Well, if we don't have any more questions, I certainly won't keep y'all in line for the entire hour. Rich, Shane, y'all got anything you'd like to cover with the community before we move towards the end?
Yeah, nothing on our side. There is a new version of Node Pilot that is being tested that will be putting out here very, very soon, and it's going to have Harmony, so we're really excited about it.
Ooh.
Yeah, but other than that, other than Node Pilot folks being on the lookout, yeah, nothing else to report on my side.
I know there's been a lot of desire for that, so I imagine that's going to help shift a lot more people to start using Node Runner or Node Pilot, sorry. And if you're a first time Node Runner who's looking at doing a build, but you don't necessarily have extensive sysadmin history or technical experience, Node Pilot was created to make that process easier for you. So definitely check that out. And of course, with the addition of support for the Harmony chain, which is super popular, given that it's the highest rewarding, highest relay chain right now, that's definitely the way to approach it. Rich, anything the community needs to know from your side?
No, it's been a great week. Shout out to Node Pilot and Pocket Pool that have been just bringing great options. I'd like to just quickly piggyback off what you said, Jinx, about the forum. There's one proposal in there right now. I just threw it into the Node Runner channel. I highly suggest that people, take like 20, 30 minutes to really read through it. I think the implications are profound. There is some serious big brain energy in that thread. And while I don't think any of this will be implemented or voted on right away, I think it's really important to kind of get exposure to that conversation as it's happening, because, in 6 months, 12 months, whatever time it is, I think this proposal particularly is going to be referenced a lot. And we always talk about whether the conversations are happening out open. I think that's a great example of a conversation that's happening in the open as it relates to on-chain revenue share. That's my only plug.
Absolutely, and this is a perfect example. Everybody's talked about PUP 11 quite a bit because the inflation economics has been a huge topic of conversation, especially with the extraordinary growth of the network over the last couple of months. On-chain rev share mechanism is another thing that I think dovetails nicely into some of the features proposed in the 08x versions, including delegation. If you've got a mechanism that manages rev share in association with the ability to assign that operator value, I think that for new node runner services, that makes a lot of things a lot easier. And given the number of folks that hit me up on a regular basis asking about starting their own node runner service and what it takes to build that out, some of these functionalities are going to make that a lot simpler in the future. So definitely get in there, read it, and see what's happening. Other questions? Let's see. Oh, I'm getting DM'd a question, which is not ideal, I will say, but I understand in this particular instance. The question was asked, how does Pocket incentivize node runners running on bare metal rather than running on centralized locations such as a data center? I get that question a lot. Why run at home when I can just spin something quicker on a cloud provider somewhere if at the end it doesn't matter? I think that's a pretty darn good question. So let's talk about that for a second. First of all, a lot of folks have asked me over the last 6 months, especially in the last couple of months, as attention around Pocket has exploded. Well, how is Pocket truly decentralized if everybody's running on big cloud providers? And I think that's kind of a misunderstanding on a couple of fronts. First of all, not everybody is running on big cloud providers. Some folks are running on other managed services that are not cloud providers, like OVH, which allows for bare metal rentals. And then like folks like QSpider in particular are building their own boxes and co-locating them at data centers. So you're still getting the benefit of being in a managed data center environment, but it's running on, a custom-built bare metal box. And then some folks are running pure, at-home builds and Raspberry Pi farms and all sorts of other types of setups. So I think just in general, the service itself is much more diversified than most people think. And even the folks who are running pure cloud generally are running across a number of different cloud providers. I don't think anyone is, well, I guess I can't say that for a fact because I don't know all the architecture, but I do know for a fact that some of the bigger and well-known node runners are running on multiple backend services and multiple backend configurations. So there's a lot more decentralization than what may be immediately visible. And even those big cloud providers themselves, it's not it's not like they have everything running on one data center out of Tampa, Florida. It's DigitalOcean and AWS and all the others, Vulture, they have their own separate data centers all around the world. So even if you are running with a single cloud provider, I know a few folks who are running in different zones or regions or things along that line. The question, though, the core question being, how does Pocket incentivize bare metal node runners? And I think that in the context of the question, it's probably, more of the DIY smaller scale builds. The simple answer is Pocket doesn't. There's nothing in the Pocket protocol that says, oh, you're running an at-home DIY build node, so you should be paid more. It's an interesting thought model to say, okay, well, maybe this should be the case or something along that line. And how well does that help the mission of decentralization? I mean, there's certainly some arguments to be made that providing a little extra boost along the way to people who are running one-off might be beneficial to decentralization over the long term. But I think that there are some things that come as built-in incentives to running a node yourself. The first and foremost is you're not bound by sweep schedules or anything along that line. If you're running your own node at home or in a full control environment, like co-locating it or something like that, you have the ability to sweep rewards at any point in time that you want. Every single day you can go in there and be like, oh, hey, here's 26 new tokens, 100 new tokens, however many you've been awarded in that day's sessions. You can sweep those out into a wallet immediately. You can do whatever you like with them. But I think realistically, and probably something that rings a little truer to all of us old sysadmins and tinker types, there's some cachet in building it yourself and running it yourself. There's a sense of accomplishment and achievement, and I think that maybe we could even put together something in the Discord community of a role or a badge or something along that line for to recognize folks who've put the work in to build their own bare metal boxes in some capacity. So that's probably something to discuss as a community perk. But as a protocol enhancement, I don't necessarily think that. Well, I'll just say it doesn't necessarily make sense to me right off the bat to have some sort of protocol-based incentive there. But if somebody has a different opinion, of course, the beauty of participating in a DAO is that you can put a proposal together and put it out to the community and see what people think and feel. And I hope that that's a reasonably competent answer to your question. Shane, Rich, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there is another aspect that is a natural. There is a little bit, I would argue, a natural incentive to run your own node, bare metal, and that has to do with margins for one, because if you're an independent node runner and you want to be able to run multiple chains, like Harmony, which requires 32 gigs of RAM and 16 vCPUs. If you're going to rent all that on the cloud, that is going to be very, very expensive for just a few nodes, for a few pocket validators, that is. So it's actually way more cost effective and to get your own box, put a few $1,000s up front to get a box that could house all those chain nodes, and then a good amount of pocket nodes as well. So there is a margin incentive there where you would have to spend a lot of money on the cloud infrastructure to rent it monthly versus owning it yourself. And then, granted, after a few months, you've already recouped the cost, ideally, of the server, and you're just kind of sitting in pure profits. And if you're hosting that in a data center, that's great. You'll have to pay that data center, but it's still significantly less than what you do in the cloud. Running an all cloud infrastructure only really makes sense if once you are a larger node runner and you're going to have lots and lots of pocket nodes running. Then you could potentially kind of go to the cloud, which is where a lot of our larger node runners are. Is they're in the cloud, and that's mainly because then they can scale kind of with their larger infrastructures. But for medium to smaller independent node runners, there just is a natural incentive there to own your own hardware. And if you're someone like me who is not super familiar with AWS and a lot of the cloud services, I feel more comfortable around hardware. Just knowing how much memory I have, how fast it is, my hard drive, my CPUs. I would prefer to deal with hardware than to deal with trying to figure out all the ins and outs of kind of cloud infrastructure. Now, that's also just me. I enjoy the hardware side, but so I would argue there is an incentive there. And also having all your nodes, your chain nodes and your pocket nodes closer together, like literally on the same box and things of that nature, doesn't help with latency because it depends on what your latency is. But if your latency starts to get too much between when a request comes in and how long it takes to get served, because maybe you have your Ethereum node in one cloud provider and then your pocket nodes in another cloud provider, that latency could affect rewards because the portal right now does provide better rewards to the fastest nodes. So the faster your nodes are, the better. And nothing can really get better than bare metal in terms of latency between the pocket node and the chain node. And then ideally, if you can have that that bare metal box, somewhere in one of the 15 some regions that the portal is currently deployed in, you can have really great latency, which can affect rewards too. So there's a lot of variation, as Jinx was saying, but there are definitely some incentives there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to pure tuning, right? I mean, we know that there are some folks in the community who have demonstrated significant expertise in tuning the hardware of their nodes, and not just the hardware of each node instance individually, but also in peering architecture and things along that line. I mean, obviously Ben Van is well known for having documented the optimal peering strategies. But you just don't have the ability to do that kind of configuration tuning in a cloud instance, right? You're getting what you order, that's it, period. It's a cookie cutter snapshot instance. There is no variability. But I've looked multiple times at the three towers sitting behind me in my office here, and been like, should I go out and do that? That tinker sense and the ability to have that full control all the way down to the OS. I mean, there just isn't going to be a better option for that. And if the only limitation on your relative latency is bus speed, then you are getting the absolute lowest relative latency possible in a transaction, which there's certainly some benefits to that. I know that Alex kind of laughed at me early on when I thought I was doing well with around 100 milliseconds, and he's like, "You need that down in the teens, bro." So those little fine point configuration tuning, that's something that only happens in bare metal. And if you are performing really well, if you're configured really well, if you've got that built out as good as you possibly can, then yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a little bit of an extra incentive in the form of, more control over your reward performance. I think we might have time for one last question if somebody asks quickly. So if you've been hanging out and you've got a question that you want to get in, throw your hand up in the next 30 seconds or so. Otherwise, we're going to be moving to wrap up here. Going once. Going twice. Okay, well, that's this week's Node Runners office hours call. I really appreciate everybody coming and joining and listening in. Bring your questions every Wednesday at noon Eastern. We do this for about an hour, and you have access to some of the best talent out in the Pocket space. So put it on your calendar and make sure you're here. But that's all for this week. We'll see you.